the more you talk and engage, you find out that you're not alone. You know, what's this? I mean, pay attention to, your brothers, your sons, your husbands. There's a saying like when men get quiet, like check on them.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Not All Hood, where today we discuss the often taboo topic of mental health among black men. Sponsored by 23andMe, this special episode was recorded live during the HBCU New York Classic at MetLife. Raheem DeVaughn is a 3-time Grammy-nominated singer-songwriter with 7 albums and 20 years of hit love songs under his belt. But he doesn't just rest on his laurels as the Love King. His care for his community drove him to found the Love Life Foundation, a nonprofit that focuses on causes such as HIV/AIDS, domestic abuse, and mental illness. In this segment, Raheem shares with us his own mental health journey. Enjoy the episode.
What's good, bro?
Hey, good morning, good afternoon.
Yeah, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I just want to start out by saying, obviously we've known each other, through the years, but one of the things I really appreciate about you is how vocal you've been about mental health and journeys, your journey, personal journeys with mental health, because it's something that, it tends to be a taboo topic in our communities. But especially when it comes to black men and opening up and sharing their experiences with mental health. So I just want to say from the jump that I appreciate your openness and your sharing.
Thank you.
Bro.
Thank you.
You've been super vulnerable and just expressive about the journey that you went through with your pops. You just sort of tell people about that journey and sort of help you go through.
So most of my adult life, just to give you a little background on my father, Ronald DeVaughn, also recording artist, Abdul Wadu, child prodigy cellist out of the Cleveland, Ohio area. But most of my adult life, my dad, he suffered from schizophrenia, which was something that was kind of kept away from me, being, I have an older sister, so me being the younger of the two. For whatever reason, I found out, during it really came to heads with it. Finding out during my adult life, there were things that happened when I was younger, in my teenage years, high school primarily, that I noticed in behavior, but didn't really know what was going on. So it wasn't until I really became, after I became this, this anomaly, or the world knowing me as Raheem DeVaughn, the artist, that I found out and got a call one day that my dad was in the psych ward, and then the family kind of just really completely came clean and just like let me know what was going on with my dad. And I think it was out of desperation. I later became the person who would be the one person that could help him when he was having crises, as we like to refer to it, when they're off their meds. And eventually became his caregiver up until 2 years ago when he passed. It's been a journey, definitely that I can speak on from firsthand experience. Also being this person is in the public, being a public figure, and with the gruesome schedule of like traveling back and forth at times and going to a show, and me living in Washington D.C. area and then going to Ohio and back and forth and stuff like that. I mean, when you don't realize how strong you are, the things you have to do until you're in a position to have to do them.
Right.
So but I wouldn't have had it any other way.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's your parent, and for those who have, my mom's 80, my father died at 75. For those that are, have older parents, if you don't, for all the youngins or your youngins in the room,
And watching.
what happens is ultimately, you become over time. It's like a role reversal where you become the caregiver for your parent as your parent was for you. It's like they almost become the child. Respectfully,
Can you talk about some of the challenges that come with that? Because on one hand, it seems it seems kind of romantic in the sense that we we get to take care of the people who took care of us, but I know that there are challenges that come with that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think it's the bigger challenge of the reality that from the time we all born, we're running out of time. So time is not promised for any of us. And it's the reality of understanding as you get older, when you get, the first 2 quarters of your life, we don't, even as our kids now, and for those that have teenagers, when you're young, you feel like you're invincible. You feel like you're gonna live forever. The older you get calls about friends and classmates and significant others. That just are parents, siblings that
Still feel like
they transition. So you realize it's just a natural progression of life. You know what I mean? It doesn't make it any easier though. When it hits home for you, it hits home. Like what's it saying? Life be life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I mean, for me in particular, like, the schedule is a schedule, so you don't really have a lot of off time being an independent artist. I've been independent for 15 years, so, being able to, I invest in myself. It's just, that's a whole nother conversation, right? But then, being able to, having to step off stage and then, there's a whole nother private side to, your life that people don't see behind, the black screen and black mirror.
Yeah.
You
But
know
also,
what I mean?
like, you talk about investing in yourself.
Yeah.
Doing things for you to help your mental health.
So for me, I was one of those people who maybe didn't figure they needed therapy or the therapy was for a certain maybe a group of people or what have you. And then boom, my dad, passed August 10th, 2 years ago. And I found myself trying to, where you have days where it's hard just to get out of bed or just function, you know what I mean? And literally, my father passed on a Wednesday. His janaza was on a Friday. We buried him that Friday. The 10th he passed. The 11th I bathed his body head to toe with 2 Muslim brothers from Cleveland, Ohio that donated their time to me. Complete strangers, and we washed him down, wrapped him in oil, wrapped him, and Friday buried him, and Saturday I had a show. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? And it's pretty much it's been, I pretty much have been moving. I'm one of those people. I haven't had a vacation. I don't know what a vacation looks like. I've taken trips. I'm looking forward. I'm working towards taking a vacation now.
Yeah.
But
Don't make that happen.
But yeah, but it's like a thing of like, it's like a thing of also in my space, which I'm pretty sure Malcolm, you can attest to this. You find yourself, artists, public figures. A lot of people depend on us. You know what I mean? Whether it's from like the employee standpoint, the amount of people that you employ, to the amount of people that you serve, from a community standpoint and stuff like that. So, it wasn't until I got in therapy after my dad passed that I realized that, you start having conversations with therapists and they said, well, I get what you're doing for your fans, or I get what you have to do for your family or for your kids or for all the people that you feel like you're responsible for. But at the end of the day, like, what are you doing for yourself? Like, how are you taking time for yourself? Like, so as you start to unravel that and do therapy, one of the things I love about therapy, in the first, the sessions that I've had thus far, is like the homework. You don't realize how vital the homework is until you taking a hiatus from a therapy session, or situations occur that in life.
Well, what type of homework did you get?
I mean, all different type of stuff. I can't really pinpoint it to one thing specifically, but it just prepares you for situations. You know what I mean? So it could be, let's say, for example, conflict resolution, or just, if you're dealing with somebody that's a family member that where it's genuinely they're a trigger for you, or things that they may say.
Yeah.
You know, it could be something just as simple as like picking your battles more wisely.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know, we live in a time now where you can be at the light and anxious for somebody to turn in front of you and blow your horn and not make it home.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's just
And
really,
homework is hard.
yeah. So
you know?
yeah. So conflict resolution, patience, really just like being like one of the cool things my therapist did was challenge me to like, hey, do something for yourself like weekly, or find a hobby, or find something that, you know, if you're not able to, you might not be able to go on a vacation, but you know, so my thing is like the spa, like in particular.
I thought you was gonna tell me like you were crocheting. Or something.
Nah.
Like,
Now my thing is like the spa and just going and just like relaxing and you know, and I might spend the whole day there. Like I got a membership and everything. I might every opportunity that I have to go and just
that
like
massage,
cool, hit the steam room and just zone and just like the art and master the art of doing nothing. Like it's cool to do nothing.
Yeah.
Like to be
That's a good vacation.
to
do nothing.
Yeah, to do nothing and just like let your body rest, let your mind reset. You know, grab that book. You know, watch that. You know, that Netflix series that, you know.
And not the one like, don't watch like 1619 Project.
Yeah,
You gotta.
And for me, like,
I mean, you should watch that, but not
when you're trying to de-stress.
Yeah, not when you're trying to de-stress.
So it was the death of your father,
yeah,
that made you go into
absolutely,
therapy.
absolutely, yeah, initially, you know,
Yeah.
and then when I got in there, you know, like we talked, you know, the therapist asked me like, hey, what are you here to unpack, you know, and I used it as an opportunity. There was that 3 other things that were majorly important to me at the time, and one in particular, like my relationship with my mom, and wanting to strengthen that, and you know, these days me and my mom are like we thicker than thieves. You know, we try to talk a few times a day, if not, you know, daily, and I just have a better understanding, a lot more patience, you know, because you know, a lot of times it's not easy for a parent to be, you know, to have her only child and they have to share a child with the entire world.
And that type of work has to be real intentional. I mean, like you said, you call her now daily, like that's probably a box that you check to make sure to grow that relationship.
Absolutely. And if I don't, she understands, you know, it's a two-part fold to it. You know what I mean? Because my mom was one of those people who didn't feel like she needed therapy either. She waited till she was like 79, 80 years old to get therapy. So after us like having a hiatus and not like speaking for a period of time, when we started talking, she let me know that she was in therapy too. So, which helped tremendously with the relationship too. From you know, having that unbiased ear, to be able to share and dump, without judgment, you know, and or to have those aha moments where they're like, oh no, you're not crazy. That's you should feel that way, and it's cool to have a boundary, or it's cool not to, you know, in some cases speak to someone until you're ready, right. You know. So yeah, it was, you know, it was like, oh man, this is great because you know, we just had I was just with my mother a few days ago, and I was just telling her how I love that for her. Like there was just a situation, like literally, that she had been carrying. I'm like, man, you know, I feel your pain on it, and I you know, I empathize with that, but I think maybe you should just think about letting it go. You know what I mean? And she said, okay, you know what? I'm gonna try that, and then she said, I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna talk to my therapist tomorrow. Right. And then like the next day, I went by there just to kind of check her temperature, just like really show face and check her temperature to see where she was with the situation. And she didn't even mention the situation. The first thing she said to me was, oh man, I had therapy today. It was great. Wow. It was a great session. You know what I'm saying? Wow.
Yeah, you have to work on your mental health the same way. I am wondering, especially since we have a geneticist here, which is often, when it comes to, since your father had schizophrenia, do
Mm-hmm.
you worry about that? Because my understanding is that that is something that can be largely passed along. And
Is that a genetic
you
trait?
probably know, you two probably know more
Yeah,
about that.
I don't know if I'm trying not to worry about anything.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, I believe in the power of like manifestation and, you know, connecting with the God in you, and you know what I mean? And yeah, but I don't know. Like it definitely, when I first found out years ago, I mean, like, definitely you wonder, like, could that be me?
It might
Right.
be feeding your creative genius too.
Yeah, I think I know from my knowledge and research, I know that, you know, schizophrenia could be brought on by many things. It could be trauma.
Yeah.
In some cases, it could be a bad reaction, you know, chemically induced reaction to, say, like, you know, lace, drugs, or just, you know, a bad trip,
Right.
you know, that you really never come back from. I don't know it to be hereditary, but you would be able to probably speak more.
Are there
about
any
that.
genetic?
So there's kind of like the complex traits or complex diseases. Genes are involved in the pathway, but he's doing all the right things. Like, he's doing all the right things to make sure that he's, you know, releasing himself from anything that could have done any harm to him. So, but absolutely right as well on all of the things that cause mental health disorders. I told you the other day that this therapist said mental health is brought on by confusion. So whatever has caused you to be confused.
And a lot of times you have a lot of people that are masking,
Yeah.
you know, their mental health because they haven't been properly diagnosed, or because they haven't noticing things within themselves that are abnormal, and maybe out of fear for judgment or getting help or lack of insurance or whatever the case may be. They mask with you know, alcohol or harder drugs. I do know, like, the longer you off your meds, or, you know, not diagnosed, you can basically go, like, legally insane over a period of time. You know, every time you have a crisis and don't take your meds, the longer that you're off of them, you risk the fact of, like, not regaining, you know,
back to that
regain your mental capacity. You lose a little more each time. And for my dad, you know, being older, I think one of the last crises he had definitely was during, you know, in his 70s, in the last 5 years, you know, of his life. And that one was rough, because that was probably the time I seen him, you know, be in the hospital for, you know, that period of time, like, you know, anywhere from like 30 to 60 days.
Wow.
Kind of like, you know, in the psych ward.
Well, the work that you do is amazing. I'm getting the sign that we have like 3.5 minutes left.
Oh, cool.
So I really, you know, just thank you so much for being here. I do want to point out quickly that you did a DNA test also, and then you went back to Ghana right after, right?
Yeah.
What was that
I want
like?
to do another one though with 23andMe.
Yeah.
I did it with the competitors, so I want to see, just make sure everything is accurate.
It's accurate, right?
You know what I mean?
Talk about real quick about your Ghana trip.
But what was it? Well, I guess that was your question. Yeah, I found out that I was half Cameroonian and Guinea-Bissau, the Tikar and Balanta tribe, so that would technically make me West African. Yeah, and that was a great experience. Going back to Ghana was a great experience. You know, for the independence, and going through the door of return. Yeah, now we call it they call it the door of return. We didn't. It's only the door of no return when you leave. But when you know, they did a ceremony where they opened the doors and said, "Hey, welcome back home." You know, which was a great vibe, great experience. I left there feeling extremely thankful, but also angry. You know.
Yeah.
I feel like I now have an understanding for why we're so successful and resilient as, you know, as Black folks here in the United States of America.
It's in our DNA.
It's in our DNA. It's in our DNA.
There we go.
And because we've been through so much and endured so much, and, you know, our direct descendants here that went through so much here, I think that makes us Not to take anything away from my brothers and sisters, in Africa, but yeah, I think that there's definitely a unique resilience that we have as Black folks based upon what we had to go through, what our great grandparents had to go through, and our direct connection to the fact that this is not where we were born. This is not where we were supposed to be born.
Right.
Yeah, I always say that the Black experience in America, or the African American experience, what have you, it's unique to us. Like, there is no other place on this earth where a people were essentially created, if you will, taken from one place brought to another place, and literally created. Yeah. No one else. There's no other place in this world that has that experience.
Yeah.
But one thing, I before we go, I want to just go back to the mental health for a second, and just wondering if there's anything that you could share with other Black men that came up for you, as a Black man going to therapy. Was there,
Yeah, I mean, just I would say for the Black women in the room, like, and take this back to the village. Like, we as Black men, we carrying a lot. You know what I mean? We go through it. We go through a lot of the same things that you've been through, if not worse. You know what I mean? So you have Black men that are walking around, that are fatherless or motherless. You have Black men walking around and dealing with carrying trauma from sexual abuse. You know what I mean? You have it's just a number of things, and to be just like we know we'll never know what it's like completely to be a woman, to be a Black woman, on this planet, in this country, in the community. You'll never know what it's like for us to be Black men and know like what we're carrying, if you don't ask and choose to be supportive, you know what I mean? Or judgmental, you know what I mean? So,
have the conversation.
Yeah. So that starts with conversation and dialogue and creating a level of vulnerability. Knowing that you guys can be our safe space. Because it starts with community, and then also amongst ourselves as men, and talking to each other, and having those sit downs and meetings of the mind, and having a safe space as well, for non-judgment. Like when I went into my therapy session, it was 4 things I wanted to address. It was like the death of my father, sexual abuse, wanting to be a better, wanting to connect with my sons, with my children better. I feel like I got 10,000 hours effortlessly in the studio and on stage and performing and stuff like that. But I'm more focused on like my 10,000 hours as being a better adult child to my mom, who's still living, and a better parent, and figuring out how to juggle life and also navigate through these things, which are just like their life, and the more you talk and engage, you find out that you're not alone. What's this? Pay attention to your brothers, your sons, your husbands. There's a saying like, when men get quiet, like, check on them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I would we have to continue to be a village. Support one another. And
I would imagine your music would have to be an outlet for therapy, right? In terms
absolutely.
of
A lot of times, I would say to the faith, anybody in the faith community, you know what I mean. A lot, back in the day, they just you can't. This is not something you can necessarily pray away.
Yeah.
You can't pray everything away. Prayer without action is blasphemy. So pray over it, but also create the support group. Create the support group. If that is in the faith community and the church, that's one of the things that we're being very adamant about, because You know, there's a saying, never call anybody. I try not to call anybody crazy because you never know what they've been through.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
yeah.
You know, for us and for all the comrades, it's all about community.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, so thank you for the words, Reverend Raheem.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Raheem DeVaughn.
Absolutely.
This camera right here, I just tell them to like, comment, and subscribe. They just listen to it, right? You come on. If you haven't done it, be a part of the conversation. Not all hood. All right? Let's go.